Greetings, survivors and friends, how are you? SHADOWFRAX here with the latest from Rust development, and you know, one of the first things that flashed across my brain when we received floating corpses almost exactly 12 months ago was, wouldn't it be good if they bloated up and eventually exploded if you left them? No, actually, it was why on earth don't backpacks float as well? I mean, I know most players are full of hot air most of the time, but turning into a backpack shouldn't solve all your problems. It was a pain having to dive for loot just because you didn't get to a cadaver, maybe even your own, on time. But worry no more, because now, only a year later, Davy Jones will have to wait that little bit longer to get his tentacles on your booty. Just a note here, this only applies to backpacks, not individually dropped items, because that would be ridiculous. I guess you could say it would break the immersion. Sticking to the brine, Rust's new wave machine wasn't exactly the most popular new ride in the park, and so waves have now been tweaked to be longer, less frequent, and generally less foamy than before. Sounds like my stool samples. The upshot is that sailing the ocean is now closer to Lake Placid than the perfect storm and won't cause you to lose your lunch every time you crest a wave. Talking of boats, a bug was fixed that was causing them to sink in rivers. Another was also squashed that was getting players stuck if they fell asleep on junk piles, and you may notice that the appearance of said junk piles has been altered slightly to remove some pieces of wood that jutted out a bit weirdly in the new waves. Oil rig lighting was looked at, with the pulsing intensity being fixed when changing culling states, and distance flares turning off during the day as intended, although it appears something else is happening with these now, at least for me, but hopefully this is easy to sort out. And another bug that was causing pixelation to still be used on the underwear censorship setting was fixed. This was affecting clothing such as bone armor. It's probably just a belt and braces measure. Plus, a couple of other issues were sorted out that related to the game's manifest update not assigning prefab IDs and an old weapons bug from 2015 that had reared its ugly head again. The best thing is that thanks to a mandatory client and server update, but not a forced wipe, that happened yesterday, everything I've just mentioned should now be on main. There's plenty in works in progress though, which we'll look at now. For instance, as this footage shows, effects for the flamethrower are currently being revisited, and hopefully what you're getting from this is that as well as the flames looking a lot more realistic, there's also going to be a healthy amount of smoke being produced. Not that any amount of smoke is particularly healthy, but you get the idea. Helk continues to work on the new AI for humans, which I spoke about last week. The aim is to add more complex behavior whilst also reducing server overhead, although we don't have any promises on when to expect this. Talking of human AI, the scientist art is being updated on a separate branch at the moment, and although we don't have any indications yet on what they'll look like after their makeover, I will endeavour to bring you some visuals when I have them. The giant excavator monument is currently in the texturing stage, and I hope to have more pickies of it for you next week, although here are a couple of the loader model that's being produced as a dressing for this new area. We don't know yet if it'll be making an entry in the next patch on April the 4th, but again, I will let you know when I do. And finally, I'm hearing so many voices at the moment about issues with performance. This isn't anything new per se, but it does seem to be more intense just lately. I know it doesn't matter how good a game looks or how many features it has. If it runs like a dead dog, then it's just not going to cut the mustard. Rust is consistently having new features added to it, but there are also many attempts to optimize, and some bring baggage with them, such as the new version of Unity. Of course, there are many reasons why a game refuses to run how you'd like it to, and they're not all on the developer's side of the fence or even within their control, but perhaps you could give me an indication in the comments of how performance in Rust is for you at the moment, especially since the latest big patch. Is it better than it was? Worse? More or less the same? Is your rig a vegetable-based one, or are you currently borrowing it from NASA? That might also be good to state. This isn't an official poll or anything, I'd just like to know really. Thank you for watching this week. The like and subscribe buttons and punch the notification bell in a sensitive area, not that it has any. You can watch me play stuff on Twitch as well, keep up to date on my ramblings and new videos on Twitter, Facebook, Discord and my Steam group, plus support my work here on Patreon. I shall catch you all soon of course, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio.